Clownvergence, Clownvergence. We're getting together to make the world better. Clownvergence, Clownvergence. We'll make you laugh and play. We'll take your blues away. Together. Very pleased to welcome together a very interesting group of people, all of whom have clown schools or involved or run clown schools. And there may be others out there who are watching who also have clown schools, and I'd really welcome you to be involved in a moment in this conversation as well. So David, who I've already introduced, who is the founding director of the Clown School in LA. I'd also like to welcome Dave Bruin. Hi, Dave. Great to have you here. Artistic director at Celebration Barn. Angela De Castro, who is the founding director of the Why Not Institute. Ofa Ravid, also founding director of the Red Nose Academy in Denmark. And the wonderful John Davison, who has his very own London Clown School. Before we jump into this conversation, I would love to just say a little word myself about the context of why I thought this was an important conversation to have. Because I also run a clown school, which is what Clown Spirit is, essentially, among other things. It's many things, but one of the things we do is we host teachers and we give clown workshops. So these are questions and issues that are pertinent and that I'm thinking about all the time. I think there's a few different things I'd just like to mention in terms of context that you might see as challenges, we might see as opportunities in this field of school, the clown school. One is the rise of technology, right? The technologization of the world. And this is something that we're dealing with all the time. We talked about in the last panel quite a bit, in fact, in that panel on the crossroads of tradition and innovation. How do clowns respond to this technologized world that we live in? And how should clown schools also respond or adapt to that kind of change of medium of communication and education that so much of the world is kind of rushing into. Another area I think is just the sort of political and social and economic turmoil that we're seeing that I don't need to spell out, but we're experiencing, right, in a very visceral, to a greater or lesser extent, depending on where we are in the world and our level of privilege. But we are at a tremendously volatile, it seems, moment in history. And how do we respond to that as clown schools, as pedagogical spaces? And then also, I think maybe a more of an internal issue to clowning itself. You know, we might sometimes be described as being victims of our own success in the clown world, in that it's a growing area. It's an area of growth. And many people, it seems to me, are now teaching. People who've maybe only just started clowning themselves and are already teaching. What is the impact or the consequence of this kind of proliferation of and growth in demand and popularity of clowning as not just as an art form, but as a kind of personal development practice? More workshops appearing all the time, training opportunities with lots of different kinds of people. So I won't say any more about that because I'd love to hear what the panel think. So that's kind of by way of a little bit of context, and the panel may choose to respond to those particular challenges, opportunities, and I think also may have their own awareness of different challenges and opportunities that they're noticing as they teach, as they program other teachers, as they try to curate and create their own kind of platforms, pedagogical platforms for clowning. So what I'd like to do first of all is just go round one by one and allow each of the panelists just to say briefly something about themselves and their school and what the sort of point of departure was, how it came to be, and what their sort of core focus is right now, the ethos, the goals, if you like, of their clown school. I'd love to start with Dave Bruin, if I may, from the Celebration Barn to speak to that. Dave, I think you'll be spotlighted in just a moment.
All right. Um, Thanks, Barnaby, for your introduction and setting the scene. I'll just say briefly, I'm David Bruin. I'm the executive artistic director at Celebration Barn. Celebration Barn is a nonprofit theater center located in Paris, Maine, not to be confused with Paris, Texas. It is in the western part of the state, so about an hour northwest of Portland, Maine, for those of you who are familiar with the northeast corridor of the United States. The barn started in 1972. It was founded by a very well-known mime named Tony Montanaro, who had a vision that he could um, start an international mime school for him and his company and other seekers and journey men or journey people mime. And then it has evolved over the years to offer week-long workshops in a number of different artistic practices. So I would say, and I arrived in the fall of 2021, right after the pandemic. Um, I'm not a performer myself, but had heard about the job and was lucky enough to be offered the chance to lead the institution. So, really briefly, with regard to the workshop programming, I'd say our really animating logic is um, to encompass a variety of art forms that span variety arts, mime, clowning, and then dance theater, experimental theater, and performance devising. So, often we'll have workshops that have both clowns, capital C, I suppose, and actors, capital A, mixing those kinds of genres and approaches. So that's one of the things distinctive about us. I'll just say briefly also, often students, because they are there for a week, they're in residence, workshops run Monday through Friday. People arrive on the Sunday before and depart the Saturday after. There's a real focus on ensemble building, on the relationship between the performer and the audience, and then also on material generation. So a lot of students will arrive there either with pieces or they'll be developing pieces. So I think that's about it. I look forward to everything the panelists have to say, and thank you, Barnaby.
Yeah, thanks, David. Great. Let's pass to DeCastro. Angela DeCastro, could you answer the same question? Just give us a little context about the Why Not Institute.
Yeah, hello. The Why Not Institute was, I founded in London in 1999. At that time, there was no other place, organization that would be dedicated only for clowning. And on the tail of my profile doing Slava Snow Show, I wanted to do something that would, I would put my profile in good use. So, and to have a space that would be for clowns only, all sort of clowning with no distinction. The ethos of the Why Not is integrity, quality, care, and respect for the art form, for the participants, and for the teachers that comes. So we are not only about workshops. We create over the 25 years now. I've been running and researching in clowning for over 30 years. And so it's not just about workshops. We create a whole community. So we had a clown choir, we had drop-in classes, we had all sorts of things. But it depends of to having space, which we don't have anymore, a studio. So it's also create a community, a network, a camaraderie, and long-last friendships. And so we done short films, we have the harmonic, the clown choir. During pandemic, it was a very interesting time for me because I felt responsible for the community that I have created. So I organize a lot of online activities instead of classes. I create another choir online that was a nightmare because it was a lot of people singing at the same time. We had a bingo. We have the Why Not Cafe. We have quizzes. You produce 3 films because I thought I had to put my community to work and to get out of being isolated. So we do run workshops. I do my own workshops. I invite other teachers to come. And so, and that's what the Why Not is here in London. We have people coming in person from all over the world, um, all sort of people from different, not only performers. So we are now with kind of over 25 2,500 names in our list to come. We promote winter schools and summer schools, and this next year we're going to start doing residencies and probably weekend workshops in the autumn. So it's all been, um, I'm changing it. I'm trying to be a bit more up to date with what people needs and want and what is the need. And also there is here in London, for example, a lot of workshops happening. So suddenly there is a lot of stuff. So it's a big competition here. So that's what I'm about.
Wonderful.
And thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
Thanks.
Very
Thanks,
small.
Astro.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. I'd like to pass to Ofer. Ofer Ravid runs the Red Nose Academy in Denmark. Welcome, Ofer.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be part of this really amazing group. And the school the school is not yet a school. We are now in the process of finishing the first year program. We actually opened in September, and I'm the founding director and one of the main teachers. The way this program came to be was actually, I would say, almost exactly a year ago, in the end of March of last year. I was asked to come to a meeting in this acting school that I teach in, and I met with two care clowns who work mainly with nursing homes with people with dementia and people who live in nursing homes, the elderly. And they said, we have a problem. We don't have a community. We don't have anyone to work with. There's absolutely no awareness to what clowns do. What does it mean? The only place people see clowns is hospitals or circuses. I have to mention I live in Aarhus, which is the second largest city in Denmark, but it's also quite a rural area. So to call it a city is maybe an exaggeration. The idea was to open a program to create a world of clowns in a way. And as I looked at it, it was clear to me that first of all there has to be clowns, and then we can also give them some training in care contexts. So I designed the first year as a clown training, and my thought was to go in a different direction than what most clown training is, which is based on workshops. I wanted to create a journey along the year, also basing the program on a weekend studies. So there are intensive weekends every 3 or 4 weeks. And there is actually a pedagogical journey starting from September, ending in April. And there are 3 teachers who are there all through the year, not every weekend, but all through the year. And then there are some teachers who are more, I would say, either guest teachers or professional experts. For example, one teacher came and gave a one-day workshop in puppetry and object manipulation for clowns. There's one teacher who came and he's an expert in street work and street comedy and so on. But the idea was to really create a year-long program and to give it a feeling of a school rather than a workshop. And I'm now in the midst of planning and planting, in a way, the seeds for the next year, where I will open the second year program, which is applied clowning. And the idea with applied clowning is that in a way, the way it is in Denmark, I am aiming it to anywhere but hospitals, because there is a monopoly here on hospital clowns. There is one organization that is training and placing all the clowns who work in hospitals. But there is a lot of other contexts where clowns can actually work and be their presence can be beneficial for other populations. And the idea is that part of the program is to go to those places. So if it's a nursing home or a homeless center or a refugee center or center like a club for people's psychiatric issues, not really a psychiatric hospital, but people who pass through that process, disabled of different kind of disabilities and so on. And the idea is that the program itself will both train the clowns, but also create the connection with those institutions, so that those the institutions who don't have now any working clowns in them, they will actually be able to understand what it is that a clown can do for them. And the clowns will, the students who are clown trained will have the experience of going to those places and also seeing the place and how it works in real life. So this year we are in the middle of the pilot year. The pilot year I had 16 students, not only from Denmark, also not only from this area. So Aarhus, for example, is 3.5 hours by train from Copenhagen, which is the main center of population. Because it's a weekend program, people can actually have a job, people can travel. I have students coming from Hamburg, I have students coming from Norway. And every 3 or 4 weeks, they show up, they spend a weekend, and they go back. That is the kind of structure and idea behind the program. Yes, and the idea is to create a community of clowns and also to create, in a way, a market for these clowns beyond the fact that they have their artistic abilities, which they gain in the first year. They will have also a place to work, because the necessity, I hope, will grow as we plant those seeds in those institutions that we visit throughout the program.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ofer. John, I'd like to come to you next. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here, and give us a little insight into your London Clown School.
Thanks, Barnaby, and thanks, as everyone has said, for the invitation. It's great to be here. So London Clown School was an idea, really, that it was a repeated idea for me, because when it started, I think about 13 years ago. I'm not sure when I actually gave it that name. That was shortly after I'd returned to London from Barcelona, and in Barcelona we'd founded another clown school, the Barcelona Clown School. But I won't talk about that. But that was its precursor. Well, I will talk about it a little bit, because the Barcelona Clown School the aim was a kind of multi-teacher set of courses, and the London Clown School has never had that ambition. It's a single teacher, school. But there was a lot in common, and the main, I suppose, the main value behind it, or the main aim, is that it should be, and it's very simple, that it should be a set of training courses and workshops and opportunities absolutely dedicated to those who want to make clowning their priority. I mean, it shouldn't need saying, but I felt that the whole point of the clown school was that you focused on clowning. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that's because, you know, I know a lot of people who thought they were going to study clowning and ended up studying something else because they were told it was a clown school, and it wasn't. But seriously, the point was how to answer those simple questions. People who want to do clowning, how do you do it? How do you clown? How do you perform clowning? How do you create and perform clowning? Basically, that's it. But of course, and then what does that mean in practice? Well, over the years, you know, we've had a lot of different formats. When London Clown School started, it was evening classes. So you would come once a week for 2 hours, or 4 hours if you came to both classes. And that would run, actually when we started, it was just a continuous course. There was no end to it. And that ran for about 3 years, I think. And that was very interesting because people would just drop in and drop out and come back and not turn up or suddenly come back. So that just ran and ran and ran and ran, and it was quite exploratory. And then I decided, well, that's rather exhausting, and let's have fixed terms. So we had three-month evening class courses, and then also some weekend workshops. And then COVID came along, and it went online, and that was an amazing experience. Andrew, you mentioned that as well, and it was. I know some people at the time were reticent about going online with clowning, and it didn't have that kind of immediacy. But I thought, well, you know, if clowning is as wonderful as we keep saying it is, then surely it can overcome that obstacle. And actually, during that year and a bit, and it kind of went into the end of 2021 to 22, there was a lot more clowning going on for me, a lot more teaching going on than previously and since. So that was a real eye-opener. And again, that was, you know, come along for an hour or two a week kind of courses. And then since then, I've veered back to weekend courses a little bit, like I think it sounds a little bit similar. Like there's a program that's happening over the year. So there's at the moment there's a 7 workshop sequence, which you can actually do in any order, but you know it's there if you want to follow through with that progression. And then there's a 3-week course, which is next month, for those who want to sort of book themselves into 3 weeks intensive into clowning. And the other thing, just briefly to say about all that, and it's always sort of been there, and at times more prominent than others, is the theory courses. So the history, theory and analysis of clown, which dates way back to the Barcelona Clown School as well. And just coincidentally before COVID, I launched that as a course that people could come and be in a classroom and do it, but they could also do online. It was technologically hugely complicated, and I didn't know how to do it very well on YouTube and having all that. If you ever tried to have a hybrid class, it's very complicated, or at least it was in January 2020. And then, of course, COVID hit, and then, Zoom, what's that? So it went on Zoom, and it's been running since then. And I think, well, this is kind of jumping the gun, really, but what you said, Barnaby, about technological challenges, and that's an area that's really, really interesting for, and actually ideal. The online space is an ideal space for that kind of study. So that's the other part of it all. But yeah, so it's the whole point of the ethos of London Clown School is that you get to cover as much as possible within that question, or how do I do it, from very basic finding out what clowning is for you, right up to, you know, creating an hour show or whatever it is you want to do. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks so much, John. And we'll come last but not least to David. David, tell us about the clown school, your clown school.
Thank you, Barnaby. Yes, and thanks for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here. Clown School is a Los Angeles-based organization, although we do have satellite kind of units in Las Vegas and Philadelphia. And we are a online and a in-person school. We offer courses that are predicated on an interest and a curiosity about clowning. And our fundamental courses are divided into a level 1 basic, level 2 intermediate, level 3 advanced clown training. But during the course of a year, I will also offer other classes that I consider to be fundamental to an understanding of this practice as a whole, including commedia dell'arte, mime, and jester, and physical comedy. So I've noticed over the years that the people that show up to our classes are a wonderfully eclectic mix of performers and artists, many actors, but also many comedians. A lot of folks, especially based in LA, we got a lot of stand-ups and improv and sketch artists. And then there's another kind of a significant part of our demographic that are professionals from other areas, including teaching, people who work in mental health. There's been a remarkable number of those attending clown school in the last few years, and other professions, including lawyers and folks from medicine and what have you. So I find that the practice of teaching clowning includes a necessity to embrace this, sort of fluid population, which I find to be one of the most exciting things about clowning, and it's taught me a lot about the purpose of the practice in the first place. Important to say that the Clown School as an organization is invested very strongly in the training of clowns, or the training of human beings through the prism of clowning, I should say. But we also do other things. We have a professional company called the Clown School Company, which launched last year and has sort of 2 productions currently in the mix. We also offer a humanitarian clowning award every year for organizations around the world who are doing that kind of important work, who are able to apply for that award. And we gather a panel of invited artists to assess those applications every year. And then we're able to make an award. This year, Clowns Without Borders and an organization in Mexico called Love and New were the joint winners of our Humanitarian Clowning Award. That side of the work, which also includes regular courses in humanitarian or medical clowning, often taught by our guest artist, Raquel Gendry, has become increasingly important and influential in the school as a whole. And I think it is not just a sort of curiosity, but actually it's a necessity to understand how humanitarian clowning is really feeding our understanding of what this whole practice actually is. We invite guest teachers from nationally and internationally. Caroline Dream, Shannon Calcott, Michelle Matlock has taught for us online. Matt Walker, who's a Los Angeles-based Barnum and Bailey clown. There are kind of a stable of artists who regularly come through the clown school, and then we also have one-off guest teachers from all over who bring their expertise. And I too will often teach kind of slightly more eclectic courses on a weekend basis, including things like the Holy Fool, Pierrot, devising, and other things that sort of are around the periphery. They sort of orbit the topic of clowning. So I think that's enough to get us started. Thank you, Barnaby.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks so much, David. As Adam said in the chat just back there, it's so fascinating to hear this kind of diversity of structures and goals in different clown schools. And Adam also mentioned the Delarte School there in his chat, which has struggled in recent times. And this is a theme, I think. You know, the Ringling Clown College closed down a while ago, and Delarte, and it's been hard times for many clown schools to stay alive, to stay afloat, to stay, I suppose, relevant, perhaps. And one of the things I notice about the clown school, David, is that you have done an incredible job of making sure your website comes up as the first search result in Google search and pretty much any search. And this is just one of those things, right? You know, we have to learn to play these games, and the people who are good at playing those games of marketing and distribution in this modern world are likely to be the ones that do well. I just want to give a shout out to Dan, who's doing an amazing job of putting all the links to all these schools in the chat. So if you're interested in knowing more about these schools, as people were talking about them, Dan was putting the links in the chat, and you can go to their websites and check out those schools. We're going to bring up everybody in just a moment. Well, right now, actually, we're going to bring up everybody onto the spotlight, the whole panel, and we're going to have a bit more of a conversation. But I do really want to open this up as well to other people who might be in the room who have their own clown schools or know of other clown schools, so that we're not just promoting these 5 wonderful clown schools, but also drawing attention and putting the spotlight on the huge diversity of clown schools that are out there. Because when I had to make the decision of who to invite, of course, you know, there's so many that I couldn't and had to be excluded from this particular panel. So please, if you know of other clown schools doing great work, put the websites or just name them in the chat, so we can kind of proliferate and bring into the space that diversity. And if you have your own clown school, please also mention it in the chat, and I'll try to bring you into the conversation at a later point. So I'd love this to be a little bit more of a popcorn sort of conversation now, and just for us to sort of come in, for you guys to feel free to kind of come in, ask each other questions, and volunteer your thoughts, particularly around, if we might start with this, around this question of sort of the business of it, the sustainability of it. How hard is that to make this business of a clown school work? What are the real challenges that you're experiencing around that at the moment? And what are the things you've found that might, or that have worked, that have helped, or that seem to be necessary to survive or to even thrive right now in this moment? And does anybody feel called to jump in on that question?
Well, I think, let me say from my particular point of view, I think that there is a difference between the ones that actually have a building and a school that is a recognized school as an institution. And the other schools that like the Why Not Institute, or maybe John Davis there with the London School, that we are individuals that we promote clowning, not only our own research and our own work on clowning, on the pedagogy of it as well, but the other people that the Why Not, for example, brings. So I think there is a difference there in how I think we all struggle. I think clowning is still very marginal. Although there is a huge interest at the moment, becomes fashionable again. And so it's a wheel, isn't it? Sometimes we're low, and then sometimes you go in vogue again. So I think that for us individuals, it's really hard to be out there on the market. as you said, there are new people coming in, people that are very young in clowning and already teaching because maybe they're doing a show or whatever it is. I think clowning is evolving, but we also evolve. So it's difficult to maintain. I am finding difficult to maintain without a space that we can do regular things, proper space, and without any funding. So that's what I found difficult from my point of view of being a solo, holding one one organization. So
Mm.
I don't know how you guys that have a proper
Thanks,
school feel.
Angela.
How's
Yeah,
that, John?
Yeah, I just Angela, just saying that about the space, and yeah, I'm thinking back. Yeah, how many times did I go and visit the here in London what we call the deputy mayor for culture,
Mm.
who I did know personally, who lived down the street from me. So I thought, oh right, okay, I've got a personal contact here, and talking about getting a space that for London, and that never happened. Or how many times did I, you know, try to set up a master's in clowning at one of the universities I've taught at here, so that trying to sort of make it sort of official in some way because it does provide stability,
That's right,
and
but it's very difficult.
it's
Nobody
difficult.
here, yeah, here is very, very hard,
Yeah,
So,
and then
but we keep it doing. That's the thing because that's what we do, isn't it? So
yeah,
we keep
absolutely.
it
We
doing.
can't do anything else, so that's what
Yeah.
we do. But the other thing there is that oh, it's gone out of my head now. So there you go, gone.
it'll come back.
That was an
Sorry.
important point I've forgotten already.
Thanks
There you
for
go.
putting all the clown schools into the chat here. I'm seeing so many. David Bruin, I'm wondering how it is for you guys having a building in terms of the overheads of that and how that affects the business. I mean, is it, if you're thinking of creating a clown school, I mean, I know you're not really a clown school, but clowning is one aspect of what you do. Um, is it a good thing to have a building?
Um, so yes, the building is my closest dance partner, for better or for worse, for sure. And just to give people a little lay of the land, so we have it used to be a horse barn for much of its life, and it now is a theater building with a 115-seat theater, some rehearsal studios, and some other smaller spaces. And then we have a two-story house where instructors and seasonal staff and sometimes other people will live, and then we have cabins where up to 16 students will stay. So we have and then we have 11 acres, as the whole campus. So we have a fairly large footprint compared to people in urban areas. I would say what's great about it is it gives artists the opportunity. We have a large costume um, collection, for example, a large number of props, a very robust sound and projection equipment. So artists who want to use those tools in the course of their workshop, they're not, taking them home and bringing them back every night. So that's fantastic. Some people like the being out in the woods aspect. I am the great indoorsman, so that holds no charm for me. But some people really like sitting under the stars, and we do fire and s'mores. So it's a great asset to have. That being said, it is very expensive to take care of, and unfortunately, individual performance cannot trump market dynamics. I mean, we can only kind of negotiate our insurance policies, for example, so much. The insurance market is what it is. The market for labor, for groundskeeping, for carpentry, all those things, I'm sure people who own homes know, is a little bit beyond your control. Some of it we could do in house. My colleague Marina Gorshenko is on this call, I believe, an incredible craftsperson and artist who's helped with various maintenance projects. But it is a big burden to fund. So for us, I just want to say quickly, Barnaby, I think whenever people ask about financial stability, the hardest question that we answer is about price, because it's very difficult to price these services. For us, we have a very limited number of people, which is both a pedagogical cap and a physical cap. And of course, we could raise prices, and sometimes we do. We do, just point blank. And we have a couple different tiers sometimes, but you also don't want to price people out who are deep in the game, who are at that point in their craft that's going to benefit from that level of training, because those people are often, all in, working on very thin margins in their life. And so you want those people there in the room, but you still have to meet all these hard and fast obligations. So I'll just say how to price workshops. The most fraught, difficult question I think I answer, most every year.
Yeah. What are your other people's what do you David Bridell, how do you kind of address the issue of pricing at the clown school? Is that something you struggle with?
It makes me smile to even think about it because I can't tell you how many times I get the urge or the sort of desire to reach out to a fellow school, or especially in Los Angeles, my direct colleagues and competitors, and say, how much are you charging for such and such a course? And I never do. I never ever do that, for better or for worse. So yeah, we've only ever raised prices once in 15 years by a fairly minimal margin. And LA has a growing and almost a surging ecosystem of clowns. I feel very fortunate in that respect. And there is a lot of kind of fluidity as students travel between these various schools, looking at various opportunities and often landing on the one that suits them best, which is great. But yeah, the question is sort of terrifying. How do we remain sustainable? I can't. It's intolerable that you even asked it. I mean, by sheer happenstance, a combination of wits, smarts, good luck, and bloody mindedness is really my answer to that. And I'm always worrying, without exception. Never a week goes by where I'm like, I don't have enough people, and then suddenly there's too many. And then boom and bust is a consistent theme for us as a school. So yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah. By the way, David, I didn't know until today that you're British or originally British, but I'm delighted to find that out.
Yes,
Just, yeah.
originally British. I've been in the States for too long now. I'm just a hybrid mutt. But yeah, I was born and raised.
We're in the Brits living in America, expats living in America club. So yeah, congratulations.
If I may jump in, I remembered what I wanted to say. It was off the back of Angela's
Please.
comment.
Yes.
That I remember that one of the things that when we started the Barcelona Clown School, which was 2006, was partly also stability for clown teachers. Can we give clown teachers some kind of, income? Like even if it's like we know we're going to have next year or next 3-month course for 2 weeks or whatever it is, and ourselves included, obviously, can we pay ourselves a wage? Because it's such a precarious thing. Not as precarious as performing, perhaps, though that will vary according to the performer. But, I've survived this far more on teaching than on performing in terms of finance. Yeah. So, yeah. So that was the reason to make it stable for us, as well as for students to be able to go somewhere and say, yeah, I'm here for this time and I'm going to focus on this.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you look like you have something to
So
say.
I have to say, the school exists in a very, as I said, it's a very small place if you compare to Los Angeles or London. And because it's a yearly program, we have to find, it's a yearly tuition, it's not a workshop tuition. And overall, it's much cheaper for the students than taking a workshop of a weekend each time. But that enables us also to attract people who come from far away, which is important for us because we don't have enough people around us in the close vicinity of the school. The model that we've built in part or in big part is geared towards the applied clown program, not because it's more important, but because first of all it's in a place like Denmark, there are more opportunities to find partners who are willing to fund or help, in other ways, the existence of a school like that, because we have this social, humanitarian, and so on impact. So I'm hoping that that this would be a factor in our survival overall, because this year we happened to have a big number of registered students. I actually had 19 students at the beginning of the year, and two dropped out along the way. But that's a good number for a first year of an existing school that had no, there's no, we didn't exist a year ago. And I'm not even Danish, so it's not like I'm a name in Denmark and people know me. The idea in the future is to find a sustainable model that would be partners in the social humanitarian slash care areas would be able to support some of the students who will do practicum and in those institutions. That would be one kind of support. The other support, and it's not a support, but it's more like an idea, a business idea, is to have the third leg. So we have the artistic leg of the clown program, the care leg, which is the second year, and then we would have our teachers would also go and give workshops to professionals in teaching schools, in companies, and these are things that I think applied theater slash clowning can be very good at. And I think that having that third leg would make the school sustainable long term if that thing actually develops. Thinking long term, I don't see another way of this school surviving, especially because we are not in an urban center, especially because we are in a place like Denmark where clowning is very it's not very developed. It's seen as a very old-fashioned kind of it belongs to circuses. It's a funny wig and balloon sculpting. Not that that's anything wrong with that, but that's kind of like the main perception of clown. So it's not very developed around here. That being said, there could also be, because Denmark is a very, I would say, socially supportive country, there could be possibility of finding funding, outside funding, supporters, and foundations that will support us long term, and that is one of the things that we're working. And again, because we are so fresh out of the box, everything might work, anything might work or might not. So it's a big question. I would just say that the model that I described is in question. I'm asking myself that all the time. Is that the best model? Is that really the best way to do this? Because it raises many challenges on the one hand, but it does give us the opportunity to attract people who come from afar. So again, that's also part of our survival, having enough people. So enlarging the range of our attraction, not only to near area. Yeah.
Yes, I like very much this idea that as a business model, instead of trying to fill many spaces and many workshops, what you have this different kind of challenge, which is few places, but you're really taking them on a journey. And it's a year or 2 years or for some of them 3 years, and it speaks to what I think, Angela, you were talking about earlier of how we sort of, is there some way of ensuring or giving people a training or a development that results in them being trustworthy teachers, or people that we can definitely know are good when we work with them. But at the same time, traditionally clowning, of course, has been something that's not taught in schools at all, right? That so many of the clowns in my Clownversations, when I ask them, well, how did you learn to clown? Well, on the street, doing it over many years, and you build the muscle and you build the understanding of how to do it. Of course, that doesn't necessarily make you a good teacher. So this question of pedagogy and how do you actually make somebody a good clown, or how do you give support to somebody, um, I think is a fascinating question, and the way that we,
very tricky.
yeah,
It's a very tricky question because for me, the nature of clowning is offers a huge freedom. So who am I to say that your line of clowning is not good? You know, all I can say is to put this person, my opinion, in the right frame of mind and to say, okay, from here you go and find your line, right? So that is, there are very good clowns out there, but not all very good clowns are good teachers. That's the thing. You know, for you to teach clown, you need to have a knack. You know, a knack with people. You need to maybe be a clown yourself to understand what there is. You know, how to communicate. So I think each one of us that teaches clowning for a while, you know, we never set up to be a clown teacher. We clowns, we perform, we out there. But somehow, for me, out of my love for the art form, my commitment to the art form, I want to research more. So I study with a lot of masters. And afterwards, I say, what I'm going to do? So I have to research myself. So that's why my courses came from the the need to know more, the need to keep researching with people. And also, this, for example, there are people that teach out there and they go on the line of the teachers they most influence them and they teach on their way. And I found that very odd, you know, because it's not them, it's not you, you know. So I teach the way I would like to learn. So I have a lot of respect for the art form, for the people. I care about where people are taking the courses. I can read the people. I teach individually, not generally. You see, I have to see everyone. So every time I teach online, I want to see everybody because otherwise I don't do that very much. But when I do, I want them with their mics on, with their cameras on. See, so
yeah, 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 yeah.
I think they think about clown teaching. I wanted to have um, maybe a reunion with the clown teachers, so we could share how is our approach, because each one of us have an approach. The clowns are unique. We all aim at the same thing. It's just the approach that is different.
Mm.
So
David,
that,
can I bring you in on this? What was your thought?
Well, I agree. First of all, agree with Angela entirely that no two clown teachers are the same, and that each will be pursuing this practice in their own way. I do offer a one-to-one training of clown teachers, mostly online, and I've mentored a lot of people that way. And it's a funny reality that everyone that shows up in that space is already highly motivated, curious, and has an enormous amount of potential and probably experience. And they're looking for more pathways that will develop their capabilities as teachers. And I use that training to really insist on a kind of a contextualization of clown teaching so that people aren't just excited because they had a great workshop, but they really get in touch with a deeper lineage and a much, much more rich context about why we do this and what it's for. But over the years, I've trained teachers from all over the world successfully, I think, to pursue the practice. And what I notice binds everyone, no matter what country or what space they're coming from, whether they're teaching high school, university, independently, circus, humanitarian, whatever it might be, is that they come to the table with a passion for the work that they've obviously encountered previously. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think clown teachers are a dime a dozen And, you know, I don't think it's like a kind of an area where people are doing stuff that they're not interested in just for the hell of it. Of course, some have less experience, some have more. But I think that, you know, it takes a very special person to want to do this. And that's been my experience encountering those folks.
Mm.
Thank you
I've
for that.
I think that is the teaching, sorry, there is, it's not just the interest of the teaching or the talent for it or the commitment, but it's also how to organize your course. What is it that you provide? You know, are you thinking about the space, the timetable, how much people can take? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes teachers want to put everything out there, but I did mentor a few people on teaching, which worked well. And the main thing was they want to do everything, or they are not aware of the timetable or the material they need, how to make it easier for the student. So there is the production behind it, the care for to be as comfortable as possible for the student, you know, for the participant. That's what I mean about the whole the general care, the general everything that is included in teaching. You see,
Yeah.
it's not just the
Yeah.
material, not just your talent, but everything else, the content, the production of it, how you deliver it, how can you see? Because I learned that, funny enough, with Sue Morrison, when I done her workshop, that I learned how to see the other people, you know, how to see each one and identify how can I help. So I think that comes with experience as well, you know,
Yeah.
and which kind of workshop you're running, right?
Beautiful.
So
Yeah. Thanks, De Castro. John, just bounce it back to you. You were going to say something just.
Yeah, I just from the other side of the coin, I remember. I mean, just to say that I think that, as in any kind of teaching field, I think there's going to be a range of, not going to talk about quality because how do we know? But there's going to be a range of types of people and reasons for doing it. I don't see why clowning would be any different, because having worked quite a lot in university systems as well, I remember being asked, "Oh, John, could you teach this Commedia dell'arte course?" I said, "What? Why are you asking me that? I don't teach Commedia dell'arte." "Yeah, but you teach clowning, so no, I don't think that's a good idea. But here's someone who can, who you could employ to do it." "Oh, yeah, maybe we'll get some other tutor to do it then." So within that system, there's very much like, okay, do you think you can manage to teach this? Yeah, I could do that. I could have said yes, and I could have sort of got through it, sort of looked at my student notes from my, 2 weeks of Commedia dell'arte when I was at circus school. But so in certain ambits like that, I think there's a gross negligence about expertise, So you will get all kinds of stuff. But I don't know what you do about that, and how to change that, or if it's possible. But I think there is a range.
I'd love to just open it up a little bit. We've got about 15 minutes left. Let's keep the panel on spotlight, and but I'd love to just open it up. Does anyone have any question for the panel? I've loved that people are putting questions in the chat as well, and there's been back conversations going on in the chat, which have been cool. So we can do that. But if you have a question you'd like to ask to anybody in the panel, or you'd like to say something, maybe you have a reflection. So yeah, I will allow Dan to choose. Tatiana, go for it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Very interesting insights. I'm one of those younger teachers. I'm teaching only in Bulgaria, my home country where I don't live. So if it's not good, I just go away. They can't find me if they didn't like the workshop. But in Bulgaria, this was supposed to be a joke, Barnaby. You're not reacting. In Bulgaria, we don't really have a clown community, and the people who come are not really professionals, but only people who just normal people, so to say. Interestingly enough, many of them are in the IT business. If I have 10 people in the workshop, 5 are programmers or IT people for some reason, and male. And compared to Austria, where usually if you go to a workshop, if there is 1 or 2 or 3 men out of 20, you're happy. So my question is, in terms of non-professionals target audience, do you happen to have noticed some tendencies, especially after the pandemic, that more amateurs are joining such classes just for the sake of it, just for fun, just for whatever? Not only because now, as far as I understood, most of you address professionals, right? I don't address professionals because I don't have them in Bulgaria, and I'm not sure if I'm there yet, so to say, to address professionals myself. But so yeah, target audience, amateurs. Is there some tendencies you have noticed, and what kind of people come? Those who are amateurs. Thank you.
David, I noticed you had raised a hand there.
Yeah, just to say, I have seen in the last few years a huge growth in the number of people who come to study clowning from different areas of life, different professions, who ultimately do not have the ambition to produce a clown show or to be a professional clown or comedian. It's become quite normal amongst my students, and I would say there's a decent percentage of those people in almost every class that I teach. It's challenging. It's also wonderful. I've learned that it enriches the courses immeasurably, and it's certainly changed the way I think about teaching. So I support you. I hope that you're enjoying the opportunity to work with people, even when, as non-performers, there may be certain limitations, of course, but we can work with it.
It's very exciting because you see people and you would never see them like this otherwise, unless you're friends with them for many years or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I've been
have
teaching languages all my life, so I have teaching experience in another field. Sorry, Angela.
Cool.
oh no, I'm just saying that uh, on my courses we have all sort of people. The last course we have a sex therapist, a priest, an accountant, a guy that works in a bank. So we have, and then writers, musicians, and then artists. So all in the same place. And looking for, I don't think it was curiosity. I think they just wanted to open up or to get what clowning has to offer. The priest works in a prison. He is the priest of a prison, and he wants to deliver his mass, his services, in a better way to make the inmates to laugh. So that that was amazing, you know. So in my course, on the why not to have a whole sort of people coming, and especially after pandemic, Tatiana, especially after pandemic.
John, are you saying me too, or do you want us to throw
I
in a
mean,
comment?
can I just like to chip in there?
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with everyone that there's all kinds of people that come to clown workshop classes or whatever we call them. But actually, I'm curious actually because my experience is very different. That I've always seen that way back. I think I started teaching, I don't know, in the late '80s, and I think people, I don't remember it being different then. It was always the case that we had people who were, yeah, like you're saying, who are not intending, like thinking, I want to make this my profession, it's my vocation thing. And maybe they do go quite far into it. But yeah, but I don't think I'm very good at picking up on these trends, but I don't see a change, to be honest, at least in my experience. Just that.
Interesting. Tatiana, thanks for the question.
If
Let's
I
have some
just,
more. Let's have some
if
more
I may
questions.
just add one thing
Oh
about
yeah,
this.
please.
So yeah, just one class the first year, and yes, there is a big variety of people with different experiences. About half the class have no experience in performing arts, but I find the challenge of teaching a class where about a third is clown trained. So people came to this first year with previous training. I have 3 students who just finished a Lecoq school in Copenhagen called the Comedy School. I have people with years of experience in clown and some people who never performed anything in their lives. And that gap, I find it especially challenging, um, actually more from the place of meeting expectations, because some people come and say, "Ah, what is a clown? I know what is a clown school. I know what is a clown class." And some people say, "Just tell me what it is." Just that different approach, that different standpoint demands a certain, you know, you need to pull them in different ways. You need to, beyond what you actually do to teach them, there is something that requires this kind of flexibility that I find interesting and challenging.
Thanks, Ofer. Yeah, good question. Adam, Dan's put you on the screen. I imagine you have a question or a thought.
Yeah, I do. Or really more of a statement. So, like thinking about the people that, that gap of performers. When I went to the Del Arte School a million years ago in 1990, 91, they basically had, in order to survive, they had to take everybody that applied, pretty much, unless you were a convicted felon. Because they needed the money to stay alive. And so the people there were of various backgrounds. I had been to Ringling. There were people there that were minister clowns. There were people there that had no clown training at all, but thought, I have $4,500 to spend, and why not spend it in rural Northern California? And there were a couple of Spanish guys who were street performers. I mean, it was really remarkable how various it was. The gap is strong, but over the course of the year, the gap became remarkably shorter very quickly, because as you build a new vocabulary, as you begin to create an ensemble together, and this is something that you can do in a place where you're there for a year in a rural place, 1 year, and those are your people the whole time. Everybody grows. The people that were lower grow quicker, but the people that have more knowledge, I had to, Ronald Foreman came in and spoke and gave things, and I had a lot of problems with Ronald because I came in not with an open cup. I came in with all these preconceptions and pre-ideas, and then Ronald comes in and kind of screws me up a little bit. I think that it's really important as teachers, not just clown teachers, but teachers, to find the common ground among your students and build them together. And yeah, not everybody's going to get everything, but they will grow together as an experience, I think. That was my main thought as you were talking. And of course, everything is different, right? And because your things are different. If you're teaching online and you never actually meet your students in person, it's much harder to figure out, what they need and how they're going to get it. You try something, and did they really get it, or are they just kind of seeming to get it? So I think it's a really hard thing when I don't teach that often, but when I do, it's almost always I'm teaching, even for experienced performers, I'm teaching the basics, but they're getting new things from the basics. They're being reminded of what they already know. They're sitting in that circle again, and their knowledge is enhanced by doing the same thing again. Anyway, that's my that was a thought I had.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks for being the resident clown expert that's always there in the
just
panels,
a guy
filling up the chat with really cool, relevant
just a talkative guy who could type.
Let's transition to Priscilla. Priscilla, you have a question or a thought? Go for it.
Yeah, I had a question a little ways back in the chat, so I'll just ask it again. I guess as a new clown teacher, I'm interested in the logistics of how to grow as a clown teacher, and I'm in Vancouver, Canada, so maybe this question is for John Davison. Like, what, yeah, like, what kinds of things do you suggest for like, going, trying out different places, and I don't know. Do you think having like an online class would be a good idea to reach more to international places, students?
So you're asking about how to, reach out beyond your home city, yeah? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking how I did that. How did I do that?
Like, do you think like there needs to be like a certain like prerequisite, like you need to be teaching
No,
for this many years before you?
no, no. I started teaching when I was a student.
Oh,
I was a student at circus school, and I went to circus school to learn clowning, and I had to learn all the circus stuff as well, which is okay, but I wasn't interested. And I started teaching because we just had a certain number of hours of clowning, and I wanted more, and a bunch of us got together and just started doing the exercises again. It's the typical thing, students like, hey, let's get together and do that again. And then I just, hey, why don't we do it like this? Why don't we do it like this? What about we change the exercise like this? And it just became a whole new set of exercises. And then, yeah, and then when I actually moved city, then I had a chance to teach, and people were saying, would you like to teach this here? That's what I taught. So I don't think there's, you don't need to have spent money on a very expensive, training to then qualify as a teacher. I think absolutely not. How you get, people to trust you, well, that's a big question. Maybe
so
write a book.
I'm wondering, does it come down more to like marketing and promotion? I
Yeah,
think yeah.
comes down to that.
David Bruin is the expert in marketing and promotion. What advice do you have?
Yeah, I would say so. Okay, let's just make a distinction between training and certification. So certification is what, colleges, universities, et cetera, offer. And sometimes that's really important. And you can also train in the context of the programs. But from what I
I
understand,
said
for what,
prerequisites. I didn't say certification, but
no, I understand. I'm just making a distinction quickly between, people who are hired to teach in a certification program and true teachers. And true teachers, the only prerequisite is that they have earned the trust and attention of their students. And there are a couple of things that go into that, but the two things I've seen that are most successful is they have to be clear about who this is for. And not every class is for everyone. It's for often a very, very small group of people. So we were talking about the difference between, amateurs, professionals, what they might mean. I mean, at the barn, sometimes we have people who are professionals, mean that they do that work even if they don't feel like it. And sometimes we have people who are amateurs and they're pursuing the work as a hobby or something that fulfills them and they enjoy doing it. But the standards are professional, meaning that you show up on time, you are fully at attention, and you are required to do as much bad work as possible, basically. I mean, David Brydell and I both work with Shannon Calcutt, and she has an oath, and I highly recommend looking at this. And there's three things that people have to, I mean, swear makes it sound like a Supreme Court thing, but it's a very fun, exciting, clear way of saying, if you are in this classroom, this is what you have agreed to do. And that is just a super clear signal for students that they are in the right place. If they say yes, I'm just going to go, they say yes to people's STEM ideas. They say, yeah, I can't remember them all, but that is just a way for people to know, I want to be here because that teacher is going to take me from where I am to where I want to go. And often people say they want different skills, and I appreciate that. And there are skills that people should learn. But what they often want when they're showing up to a class that has nothing to do with certification is they want a chance to be a braver, more creative, and more connected version of themselves. That's what the workshops are really about. And clowning, I think someone on this call said, we teach people in some ways like how to be people through the prism of clown. And so I think if you can create an environment, whether it's in person or online, whether it's in Vancouver or somewhere else, where people are given the opportunity to be a braver, more creative, more connected version of themselves, that is a true gift. And then you got to figure out how to make all the, pricing work and figure out with your life. But as many opportunities as you can give yourself to reach the people who you seek to serve, to tell a true and compelling story about where they are and where you want to take them, and then to deliver on that promise, which is extremely, extremely hard. That's the way to go. I think I've gone a little over time, but that's my philosophy.
No, it was really, really great, David. Thank you so much for that. And Priscilla, thank you for the question. It was a really cool question. And we're going to have to wrap it up here. But Priscilla, now you've got these people that you can get in touch with and ask for mentoring. Sounds like numerous of them do mentor teachers. So it can always be a really great thing to have a mentor, right? Somebody you can actually potentially pay and go to once a week or once a month and get regular advice and mentorship on your teaching. So good luck with your clown teaching journey in Vancouver. I wonder if we could just finish by what is the future of clown schools in a sentence? Let's go round. Who wants to start? David Brydell, go for it. What is the future of clown schools in one sentence?
Wonderful question. I think it's to continue the work that David, my colleague there, just so astutely identified, to continue to kind of bring courage to people who are seeking it, and to spread the vision of clowning, which I think is something that is already underway, I'm delighted to say, and hence this conference. So that's what I would say.
Who are you going to pass to?
Oh, I love that. Let's pass it to David.
Clowning has survived the fall of the Roman Empire, the Counter-Reformation, and it will survive the crisis of the neoliberal order. They are indestructible, but they will always evolve and form. And I will pass it to John.
I think it's to diversify, quite frankly, with students to be open to, and not just open to, but welcome people's who have experience. How can I say that? I want to say it in one sentence. I'm sorry, Barney. Who bring their own particular way of clowning, and to welcome that, and not to be a place where we tell people this is how you do it. Don't do it like that. That's my thing.
Clowning will survive. We survive. We evolve. I evolve. Clown evolves. We never died. That's the future. We keep it going. We just have to lead the way in the right way for who comes after us. That's all.
And
Never
Ofer,
die.
the last word was with you, Ofer.
Okay, I will say this. AI, artificial intelligence, aims to conquer the world. I say natural stupidity, the exact opposite, will be the pure antidote. And this is what we're doing. So we'll just take over the world instead of AI.
Natural stupidity. I love it. The antidote to AI is NS, natural stupidity. There you have it, folks. Thank you so much.
There ain't no place I'd rather be. You're lighter than the sun and the stars to me. Everybody's family at the Clownvergence.